Hi everyone, and welcome back to the course. In this video, we will talk about the key Docker administration tools. So, every container consists of complete execution environment, and that includes application, dependencies, libraries, binary files, and configuration. This is called containerization and allows you to create a level of abstraction at your platform. However, in order to do that, you need a specific management tools to move the Dockerized applications to production containers and ensure their security, automation, and administration. And for this reason, in our first video of this section, we're going to talk about Portainer, which is a tool that does exactly that. So the organizations and the developers should consider the challenges associated with managing Docker environments and the need for implementing business solutions to support effective management of the Docker containers, which means that they should have a technology that allows them to successfully manage problems of distribution, compliance, and governance of some containers. So there are three main stages into the container life cycles. The first one is development, and this is the first stage. Developers create and deploy Docker containers that include items like application codes and libraries. Then they test the application, correct the errors that might occur, they add functions and improvements, and then create a new Docker image and deploy this image in new containers. And this process normally continues until the required standards are met. In the second stage, managers coordinate the automation of the application environments, which include Docker construction, testing, and deployment drivers. And finally, in the last stage, the containers are deployed in production and remain operational and available until they are out of scope. So this is the stage at which the final challenges are critical, such as the orchestration and governance, security, and container monitoring. So there are 5 major container management challenges that every organization struggles with and should address. The first one is the lack of control. So developers need independence to quickly create, implement, and test application containers. On the other side, the operation teams need control and governance to avoid excessive consumption of resources, such as CPU usage or RAM. The second challenge is the cycle from rise to production. So here it is important to maintain quality and safety while the code development increases. So you should always know that even if your application works properly and you have no issues, once you try to scale it or to make it available for bigger audience, there are a variety of issues that might appear. The cloud infrastructure does not disappear and will continue to coexist with the Docker infrastructure. The implementation of complete applications covering Docker and other infrastructures always require more advanced capabilities to orchestrate the applications and manage the running environments. So as we saw even from the previous video, the Docker containers can also integrate vulnerabilities. And this is simply because they include parts of the operating systems. So the protection of the environment requires security in the host Docker layer, containers, and in the images. And finally, the Docker environments always require special monitoring capabilities. And those could be API level integrations with Docker or instrumentation built into the Docker image. So here we should make sure that we follow all specific requirements for our Docker containers. So the first tool that we're going to look today is called Portainer, and this is an open source web tool that can execute itself as a container and will allow you to manage the Docker containers easily and intuitively using an easy graphical user interface. So let's open a terminal and run Portainer and see how it works. So I'll first run our Docker daemon, okay? And now here from the terminal, let's write docker run -d to run the container as a background process. Let's now specify the ports 9000 on 9000 --name, and let's call this container Portainer. Then let's do restart always. Okay, let's do -v to define some volumes in which we'll be able to write. So let's do var run docker dot sock, and then var run docker dot sock dash v portainer underscore data. Okay, and then let's do data with a slash. That's it. And then let's do portainer slash portainer. Okay, and then just go back and do -p before the port. So we define actually that we want to state the ports there. And also I noticed another typo that I did, which is right here before var we need to have a slash. Okay, so run that command. Okay, and you can see that now we're having a new process here. And if you check back in your Docker UI, you can see that you have one container running that is called Portainer on port 9000. If you want to check that from the terminal, you can do Docker container os, okay, and you'll pretty much see the same thing. You will see the ports, the protocol, and the name of the Portainer container. So now you can access Portainer on port 9000, and let's go to our browser and just write http localhost 9000. Okay, and now you can see that you're in the Portainer page that is running on your device. And we'll go back to this page here to be able to inspect your container system. But now let's go to the terminal, and so now let's clear and let's inspect our Portainer tool. So do docker volume os, and you can see that right here you have your Portainer data in your volumes, and let's inspect that volume. So if I do docker volume inspect Portainer data, okay, you'll be able to see the Portainer volume. So you can see the date, the mount point of the volume, the name, and the scope that is local. So now once we made sure that we have the volume and the Portainer is running into our Docker environment, you can go back to your browser and define a username and password. So here you can enter your username and password, and bear in mind that if you don't have registration, you might see a different page, but just follow the registration instructions to create an account. Then select login, and you can see now that you logged into your account, and you pretty much can see your Docker distribution with all the volumes you have, the containers running, and so on. Now, before to continue, a very important note: if you run into problems, for example, if you forgot your password, you can use this page, docs-portainer.io advanced reset admin, from where you can follow those 3 steps in order to reset your password if you forgot it for some reason. It is pretty straightforward. First you stop the container, then you pull the Portainer helper for password, and then you run this function here, which will help you to reset your password. So you will get your username and you will get your new resetted password in case you forget it. So let's go back to the Portainer application. And so, as I said, you can see here information for your current containers, which of those are running, how many volumes you have, and how many images you have currently installed in your device. So let's click on the dashboard, and what you can see here is pretty much a summary of your Docker system. The total numbers of containers, images, networks, and volumes, one by one. You can of course click to them and also see that you also can inspect the amount of space that your images take on your device. So then if I click on the containers, the container menu will show you a list of all the containers you currently have, and you can execute several instructions that you can normally execute through the command line, such as starting, stopping, or removing a container from your device. So let's hit one of the containers, and here you can see the data for the container, the ID, and also, as you can see, you can start it, stop it, kill it, restart it, and so on, or completely remove it. Let's try to start it, and you can see that now the container is successfully started. And if I go to our Docker image, I can see that the other container that I selected is now running as well. Okay, so let's stop that other container, and it normally takes time until that's done. Okay, so the container now is stopped, and if I go back to our Docker image, you can see that it is actually stopped. So from here, in my opinion, you have way more options and better view on your containers comparing to the Docker image. So you can definitely use this page for starting, stopping, duplicating, relocating your containers. It's really helpful to manage them. And this is the main reason why Portainer It's a great tool to manage containers. In addition to the menu options here above in the action section, you can also see that there are other buttons such as logs, inspect, status, console, and attached. So for example, if you select the logs, this will allow you to see all the logs that your container has created in real time. So if you run your container, you would see how the logs are changing in front of you. So let's start the container back again and also try the other options as well. So if you select inspect, this will basically give you all the informations that you need for your container, and you can extend those tabs so you can see things such as the host configuration, the host paths, mounts, volumes, and so on. Now, a very interesting tab is the status tab, because here you can really see in those graphs the status of your memory usage, CPU, network, and processes. And you can see those over time. So here is your network usage, right? You can see that the CPU doesn't use much because we are not doing active tasks with our container. And it is the same for the memory. Okay, you can select here your refresh rate, so on how much time you want those things to be refreshed, and you can use this information to manage your containers. And if you go back, the final thing that I want to show you is the console, which allows you to pretty much interact with your container from here. So you can see that here we have a bash console with a container that I just run. So I just run the Anchor engine. Okay, so you can see that our console works perfectly fine. And of course, before exiting, you can disconnect from the console and then go back. And finally, there is the attach button from where you can attach or detach to the console. Okay, so you can see how many options you have here, and you have a really better user interface and can use plenty of options without the need to type a single command into the terminal. So let's see now our images section, and here, of course, as it makes sense, you get access to all the images currently installed in your device. So this would be the same if you would write in the terminal docker images command. It shows you the list of the images. You can see that I have 5 pages of images, so this is about 50 images installed in my device. And if you hit on the image, of course, you'll get some information for that image. You'll be able to delete the image, to export the image. You'll see the size of the different image layers, and so on. So this is a very good option if you want to manage your images. You can also select them from here and decide which one you want to remove, or whether you want to build a new image directly from this button here. You can also do the import and the export commands in order to import or export particular image of your desire. Next, if you want to check out your networks, you can select the network button, and you know, in the previous videos we had a section when we were talking and we were learning how to create networks, such as bridges between different containers or external ones. So in the same way, you can add and remove networks from here without the need to type a single line of code. So if I want to remove the DMZ bridge, I can simply click it and then select remove, and you can see that the DMZ bridge is completely removed. You can also add network, and if you want to add a network, here you will be sent to this page where you can specify what type of network you want to have, the name of the network, the subnet mask, IP range, and the gateway. So pretty much here you would specify how many possibilities for IP address you would like to have, what is the range of those IP addresses, and what is your gateway. And you are also able to add some advanced configuration. So do you want to restrict external access to your network? Do you want to enable container attachment, for example? And so on. It is really convenient to use the user interface as compared to the terminal. Then in volumes, you can really see volumes that are already created into the volume list section. You can also add and remove volumes from there. So you can create a new volume, and here you need to specify the name of the volume and the path to that volume, right? And on the other side, if you want to remove certain volumes, you can simply click on them and select remove. So these are the main options, guys. You can also check out the templates from where you can install different images and distributions from the most famous containers out there. So if you want to get Ubuntu, Node.js, MySQL, you can see that you can have all of those here and even more. So if I select, for example, Node.js, I can easily, by just selecting it and clicking deploy a container, I can deploy a Node.js container. If you don't specify a name here, an automatic name will be allocated to your container. So if I want to deploy Node.js, now it will take some time and then the container will be deployed. So we will get the image and we will start the container into our Docker distribution. Okay, so you can see that maybe in about 30 seconds, the Node.js image have been successfully downloaded and a container from Node.js have been started into our machine. So you can see that it is pretty simple to create new containers from new images using Portainer as well. So I hope you liked this management tool, and this will really help you to manage your Docker containers and have better control on them. Thanks for watching, and in the next video we will talk about another tool, so you'll be able to choose between the two of those, or you might want to choose both. It's entirely up to you, but in the next video we will talk about another tool called Rancher. Thanks for watching.